Once upon a time, there was a village where people were always happy. Nestled in the serene embrace of a lush valley, surrounded by mountains and trees, this village was indeed cradled in Mother Nature's own lap. Where the green of the grass met the blue of the sky, a pristine river passed by, the trees tall and dense were like holy spirits blessing the villagers at all times. These villagers woke up each day brimming with a sense of contentment and joy. They thrived in a delicate equilibrium with nature, meeting their daily needs, yet safeguarding resources for the future, all in harmony with their ecology. But one day, when all the men from the village were out at work and no one was looking, something ominous happened. Outsiders marched in with large axes and chainsaws. They cut the trees, stole the trunks, and rolled the logs into the river stream. When the women from the village noticed this, they panicked. Somewhere down the river, timber merchants were destroying their lives and collecting logs for business. They had to save Mother Nature, but they did not have the power to fight. Yet, somehow, they made a plan. No, this is not folklore, but a real story. When did this happen? Who were these women? And what was their plan to save the forest? Hello and welcome to A Century of Stories brought to you by IDFC First Bank. Always you first. I'm your host, Kunal Vijayakar, and today I'll share with you an empowering story of India's Chipko Movement. This story takes place on the banks of the Alaknanda River in the serene valley of the Garhwal Hills. Although we are in independent India, the remnants of some British colonial forest laws still persist. These laws empower the Indian government to declare any land covered with trees as government forest and allow wide-scale deforestation. Just as the British were exploitative, so too were their laws. Moreover, they prohibited centuries-old traditions practiced by forest-dwelling communities who were the actual nurturers of the forests. Responding to these injustices, a man called Chandi Prasad Bhatt from a small village named Gopeshwar founded a cooperative organization in 1964. He named it the Sholi Gram Swarajya Mandal, or DGSM. This cooperative movement fostered small industries for forest-dwelling villagers and established localized rules to preserve ecological balance. But to their dismay, the government of the day unconcernedly went and gave permits to foreign corporations for industrial logging. Industrial logging? Denuding forests? This neglect led to severe consequences. Heavy floods, soil erosions, and landslides, resulting in the loss of 200 lives in the valley. DGSM protested this large-scale deforestation, but their voices went unheard. This was when Chandi Prasad Bhatt led villagers into the forest, and in a desperation to protest, the villagers all stood around the trees, physically embracing them with both hands, hugging, clinging onto them, not letting go of them. They said, "Cut me down before you cut down the trees." Their message was loud and clear. The trees were far more important than their lives. As Chipko in Hindi means to hug or to cling to, this movement became known as the Chipko Movement, and it first took place in 1973. The protests bore fruit, and the government had to cancel the company's logging permit in the region. However, this was not the only village facing the deforestation menace. In another village named Raini, close to the Garhwal Hills, the tree cutters had made a cunning plan. They marched in with large axes and chainsaws, just when the village men were out for work. More than 2,000 trees were scheduled to be felled that day. When the women of the village noticed this, they stepped up. Led by Gaura Devi, a group of women stood hugging, clinging onto the trees for hours. Their determination and sheer resoluteness made the outsiders give up and finally walk away. The villagers from Reni were successful in protecting the trees this time. But not every village was that lucky. Unfortunately, the Chipko movement was largely spontaneous, unorganized, and decentralized. It only gained momentum when Sundarlal Bahuguna stepped in. Sundarlal Bahuguna was a local environmentalist who went village to village describing the Chipko tactic. Soon, the Chipko movement began to emerge as a peasant and women's movement for forest rights. Following Mahatma Gandhi's concept of satyagraha, Bahuguna himself fasted for 2 weeks in 1974 to protest the government's forest policies. By 1979, Bahuguna brought together more than 150 villages to get involved in the Chipko movement. The protests expanded to include the entire ecology of the region, ultimately becoming the Save Himalayas movement. The government finally had to cancel the deforestation schedules in many villages. The Chipko movement's breakthrough moment came in 1980 when an appeal was made by Sundarlal Bahuguna to Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. It resulted in a 15-year ban on commercial felling in the whole Garhwal-Himalayan region of Uttar Pradesh, now Uttarakhand. Similar bans were later enacted in Himachal Pradesh too. Between 1981 and 1983, Bahuguna marched 5,000 kilometers across the Himalayas. This time, the government had to take action, not only to stop the felling of trees, but also to rewrite all forest policy. They focused on creating forest reservation areas and planting more trees in depleted regions. And this slowly started resolving problems like floods, soil erosion, and landslides. Through their acts of non-violent defiance, the Chipko activists not only halted the relentless march of industrial logging, but also catalyzed a fundamental shift in forest policies. Not just safeguarding the forest, but the very fabric of life itself. Their legacy not only bears the green canopy of the Himalayas, but also the collective consciousness of a nationwide awareness of environmental conservation. The Chipko movement serves as a timeless reminder that ordinary individuals united in purpose can effect extraordinary change. You've been watching A Century of Stories brought to you by IDFC First Bank, always you first. I'm Kunal, and next week, I'll tell you how India's first airline took flight. Come back for it.